guys, and welcome back to another episode of Agent MiniMan. Today's episode of the Daily Poll. It's September 11, 2014, 5:50 p.m. You all know what I'm going to talk about today. As of today, it is the 13th anniversary of the September 11 attacks by Al-Qaeda on the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and also the United States Capitol, which was luckily put out. So I have my tab pages here. Summertime gaming in 2 months and 20 days, but that's not important today. Today we remember as a nation the day that 3,000 innocent American lives were lost. What happened that day is often referred to as September 11, the attacks of September 11th, or 9/11. On that day, 4 planes, 2 from United Airlines, 2 from American Airlines, were hijacked by Al-Qaeda. The attacks killed almost 3,000 people and caused at least $10 billion in property and infrastructure damage. It was the second time that the United States have been attacked on its own grounds, and me being born in 2001 and my whole grade, as we talk about this today, and as we do every year, we are the closest generation to when it actually happened. We're the first generation that doesn't know what life was like before the attacks. So I was highly into this. When the 10th anniversary came around, I pretty much read through every article on it there was. I think it was like the first time I've ever heard of it, which is kind of surprising, but in respect of that, I wore a makeshift black ribbon that I made out of fabric right before I went out the door to school today. So I'm going to talk to you about everything that happened that day and how it impacted our country and what happened after it as a result. So there were 19 terrorists, and they were flown into buildings as suicide attacks. 2 of those planes, American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175, were crashed into the north and south towers of the World Trade Center. And within 2 hours, both of the towers had collapsed completely and had significant damage to the surrounding structures. I have a lot of teachers who were in these cities when this stuff happened. My current English language arts teacher, Mr. Howard, was in Marine headquarters, which is across the street from the Pentagon, and his job was to carry documents between the 2 buildings. He was there at the Pentagon, across the street from it, when the plane hit. He said that the whole entire building shook. He looked out the window, and all he could see was a giant puff of smoke. I can't imagine how terror-struck he could have felt. He said that he felt like he was in a war zone, that all the tanks and other armory from the military bases surrounding were driven out into the streets to protect against another attack. Originally, when the first plane hit, a lot of people thought it was an accident, and people who heard about it didn't know that when they said a plane hit the World Trade Center, they thought it was like a little Piper Cub thing, the little crop dusters, and there was no significant damage. But they said that the first plane was traveling at near 550 miles an hour. A third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon, the headquarters for the United States Department of Defense, leading to a partial collapse in its western side. The 4th plane, United Airlines Flight 93, was targeted at Washington, D.C., but crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, after its passengers tried to overcome the hijackers, and in total, as I said before, 3,000 people died in the attacks, 227 civilians and 19 hijackers aboard the 4 planes. It was the deadliest incident for firefighters and policemen in the United States, with 343 firefighters and 72 policemen killed. So what happened? So originally, the first plane hit at 8:46 a.m. and we're in Mountain Standard Time. I'm not sure what time that was, but it was a lot earlier in the morning. I think it was like 4 hours earlier, so 4 in the morning. So everyone on this side of the country and this side of the world woke up to see 2 collapsed World Trade Center towers on the news. I could not imagine what that would be like. I had a friend who, her dad was in Newark, and he was supposed to go to San Francisco on a business trip. He was supposed to be on Flight 93, the one that went down in the field in Shanksville. He missed the flight. When I heard about this, I was so shocked that she was so close to being so devastated that, I don't know, it's just that weird feeling that it could have happened to someone that close to you. It's scary. My teacher, Miss Naylor, she was my homeroom last year. She grew up in New York City, and she moved out here to Phoenix, and her brother called her at 4 in the morning when it happened and said, "A jet just crashed into the World Trade Center." And she said, "Well, why is that important? It's just like a little plane. Like, what is it?" And he's like, "No, like a passenger jet." And she just didn't know what to do. When she got to school that day, they were doing a project on New York City, and they were watching it on the news during school, and I could not imagine how terror-struck I would feel. The non-fatal injuries exceed 6,000. The actual number of deaths is 2,996, 4 short of 3,000 people. Of course, 19 of those people were hijackers. They deserved it. But no one else in that attack deserved to die. That was 3,000 innocent American lives and even international lives. It hit the World Trade Center. There were people from all over the world there. I know people who were related to people who were in the tower when it happened. My friend, his dad was supposed to be in a meeting in the towers when it happened. All these things that are just so close, it's just devastating. On November 18, 2006, construction of the One World Trade Center began at the World Trade Center site. As of September 2013, the new tower's concrete construction was nearly complete, and it will officially open when the installation of the podium glass and interior construction is completed. It's estimated 2014. Of course, we're in 2014. I'm not actually sure whether or not it's completed, but I'm pretty sure of it. Every year, early in the morning, at the moment that the first plane hit, they ring a bell, and they start listing off the names of all 3,000 people who died, and also the names of the people who died in the 1993 World Trade Center bombings. So, at the current site where it is ground zero, they have square things coming up out of the ground with fountains that go into the inside, and every name that died in the attack that was in the tower is on it. And they have the names facing different directions. The one closer to the inside of the wall were inside the tower, and the ones closer to the outside of the wall on the face that it was hit were the ones that were inside the plane. They also put close family members together, so we heard on the news that one lady, her sister was on a plane and her friend was in the tower, so they were put close together on the thing. They also had their names go about 6 inches deep into the wall so that they can put dog tags and flowers in the names. And every year when the sun goes down, they light up 2 giant pillars from inside those fountains, and they just shine so bright straight up into the air. as these giant pillars of light that represent how we as a country can get through anything, and we will always stand united. Because as my English language arts teacher said, the reason we need to never forget is because if we forget, then we have ultimately let them won a war of fear. And when I heard that from him, I felt like it was actually for a purpose. That all this crazy stuff that we're doing and thinking about and kind of getting depressed over, it's for a reason. And that even though these people died in vain, we're not remembering them in vain. And also, as a result of all these things, I'm going to have to close off the video here. I'm sorry. It's getting too long. I'll see you tomorrow, YouTube.
If everybody had an ocean across the USA, then everybody be surfing like California. You see them wearing their baggies, Huarache sandals too.